the pinnacle of our technological and knowledgeable advancements?
I mean, I think there's still like a few things people are trying to do. Like obviously, like the stuff you just said, like Mars, and then like the Neuralink, and then
VR shit.
Yeah.
There's like little nooks and crannies of things that.
But I feel like we're getting closer to that. Like you were in what's his name's class, right? Senior year. Fuck, what's his name? The sci-fi teacher.
Oh, Kunkel.
Yeah. I feel like we're getting into those those realms. I mean, it's like we're still a little bit away. Definitely getting there though.
Well, Black Mirror, I've seen that show on Netflix.
Yeah, I haven't watched every episode, but I've seen some.
It's really good because it does make you think about the risks and future risks of technologies that we use, or that like we're going towards, right? Things that connect to your nervous system or things that connect to your body in general. And,
like the Neuralink stuff?
Yeah, like how much of a risk factor is that? As much as they say it's safe, how true is that hold?
And then there's like, I don't remember what books it was exactly that we read, but there's a kind of like movie, but it talks about like whether like AI robots deserve to have like the same rules applied to them as like humans. Like,
that's I forget. Blade Runner. Android's Dream of an Electric Sheep was the book.
Okay. Yeah.
Where it's like androids who are are like nearly made to be human.
Yeah.
Like blend in society for the most part. Like, do they deserve like their own set of rules? Do they? They did a game on this. It was called not Cyberpunk. I forget what they called it. Detroit 20 something.
Oh, 2055 or something?
Yeah. Let me see.
It might be 20.
Like official title of it. So.
But yeah,
Have you seen the premise of this game?
No. But I remember the Blade Runner.
Detroit Become Human.
Oh yeah.
So it's like a bunch of it goes into like AI stuff, right? So like in this like near future-esque, human society, people have AI robots or AI, androids that they can, use as like personal people in terms of like, household chores or whatever. Like some have them just as a companion to talk to or like as a caretaker. And they have virtually AI, androids. So, they're on that next level, and the premise of the game is that they start to break past their own limitations in terms of robotics. Right?
Okay.
So, like you have like what is it called? The Turing Test, right? So they start. Like,
where you like determine if something's AI or human.
Yeah, you determine things are robotic and whatnot.
Yeah.
So like they're breaking past those barriers and they're becoming their own group of people, and then it becomes like this thing of like now Detroit's it's a battleground for like these AI androids that are trying to free themselves from the current society that they're in, because it's very oppressive, but it's not suited for their like rights.
Yeah, they're just seen as like objects.
They're androids, right?
Yeah.
They're androids in terms of like, they don't have
feelings,
free will. They don't have any of this. Like they're just there to do their task, kind of thing. It's just part of their programming.
Yeah.
So that becomes like the whole premise, and it's pretty interesting because like they take it from like different perspectives, right? So you have like a detective's perspective. Then they bring in this robot who is like the most prototype, like newest model, who's like closest thing to humanity in terms of androids that can be. And then you take it from the side of the person who started this, or this android who started the revolution.
Okay.
So like you get all these different sides of what's going on. It's pretty interesting. I don't know. It kind of like turns things into reality in more of a sense, right? Like we've dealt with like Matrix and all those others, like iRobot and I Am Legend and all those like movies and medias that portray and predict like what may happen in the near future with AI and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so,
I mean, most of it's bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
like fucking Terminator and shit.
Well, that's what you have to account for risk, right? You don't account for like safety in risk, right? You're not accounting for safeness.
You're accounting for things that could go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like we took stats class, and that was exactly what we were calculating.
The margin
risk.
of error.
Risk, margin of error. And the risk factor. It wasn't the safety factor.
Yeah.
Who cares? No one cares that things are going safely.
Yeah.
You only get insurance for risk purposes, not for safety purposes.
I think there's like a good chance that AI will be treated like pets. You know, like if you see someone like kicking their dog and shit, you'd still get in like trouble for doing stuff like that. But I don't know if it would get to the point where it's like they have their own free will. That'd be
their own human rights.
Yeah.
Rights. Well, no, I'm not sure.
I mean, there are animal rights though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
PETA, stuff like that. I don't think it's a matter of. It's going to be a matter of like how advanced we get it to be, right? Like, when you think of AI, what do you think of?
I just think of like basically like a robot that can just move around and do whatever, like a human, pretty much.
Yeah, I just think of a computer.
Yeah.
Just like a big jumbotron computer. You know, like you see in the cartoon. Like, you think of AI and you can go in so many directions with that idea.
Yeah.
You know, it's just artificial intelligence. It's just like another form of storing a brain. You know? So if that's the case, then what does become the underlying difference between me and an android at that capacity?
Yeah.
You know, like where do we draw the line? When does it become, oh, they have rights now? They can feel and they can, right? They have some sentience. Just because they're not made from the earth like the natural way doesn't mean, or does it? You know, like what are the questions we're gonna have to ask? What's the direction we're gonna have to go in? You know, same thing with VR, right? Like this SAO is the perfect show that like portrays just one risk factor, but how big of a risk factor it is, right? You put the helmet on,
and it doesn't come off.
Syncs up to your nervous system, and now your nervous system is literally held hostage until you beat the game. You know, I've had an interesting like theory on that. I'm not theory, I would say, but like an idea that was based on that, right? But if like they put on they have no idea whether the helmet would take them.
They'll kill them or not, yeah.
Kill them or not if they took it off. Did we talk about this already?
We kind of briefly touched it.
Yeah.
But I don't think you went in depth.
So like, no one will really truly know if they die on the other side of taking off.
Yeah, it's like the allegory of the cave. Like you don't really know.
Yeah, allegory of the cave. It's very quantum-esque in theory, right?
Yeah.
It's like, it's
because you're going off of like hearsay, basically.
Yeah.
And you don't know for yourself, but if you don't know if you want to take that risk.
Right. It's very Schrodinger's cat, where it's, you know, until you break the wave function of removing that helmet or not, you will never know if you're going to die on, you know, back in reality. You know, it could be just the biggest bluff in the world, and no one will know until they take the helmet off.
Yeah.
And who will know? You know, let's say your buddy takes their helmet off, you still have no idea. It's almost like the concept of death.
Yeah.
Right? You still have no idea what's waiting for you on the other side, even though they took the helmet off, you know?
And I can't remember if any of the people who actually died in the game, like died in real life in that show.
Yeah. So that's so weird. That's where I get into like some crazy thoughts about it, because, you know, the moment he takes his helmet off, right? Because he beat the game. So like all the requirements for him to take the helmet off safely, for him to return to Earth, are met. And everyone, you know, proceeding after him. But how do you really keep track of everybody who was playing that game?
Yeah.
You know, sure, they could throw a number out and be like, 10,000 people died. But how do you know that's like, you know, it gets to like some paranoia shit to a certain degree. But it really comes down to like, what universe are we jumping into when we, you know, whose universe are we following?
Yeah.
In that sense, right? We're following, I mean, in those shows, they make it simple for you because, it's just whoever the main protagonist is, it's usually their universe, right? So it's like Kirito's universe in SAO, Goku's in Dragon Ball Z, Naruto's in Naruto, One Piece is Luffy's, right? We're just looking at it from their universe. If we took a different character's perspective into play, it'd be a different show entirely. Yeah. You know?
That's why I think, like, at least with Naruto, they do like the side character stuff. Mm-hmm. So you kind of see everyone's different perspective and background. Yeah. I don't know how many shows do that, but.
Yeah, well, then you start to build more of a community and starts like you branch outward, right?
Yeah.
Oh, now it's becoming less about the main character. Like, yes, like that's the main premise. He's the main character, but like now it's becoming less of a focus on him entirely, and now we can focus on the village he grew up in. Yeah. Right now you get a backstory of not just him, but like, you know,
how everything
the people around him his age. So it doesn't feel like it's just an isolated like Hunter x Hunter did this. Let's say not the best, but they introduced you to like 4 characters, and then they like brought it to 2, and then sometimes they'll bring you back to one of those other main characters at the very beginning, but not really. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like in terms of like seeing like how the world was built, in terms of like, oh, there's these characters, and you know, this guy has red eyes only sometimes, and there's another guy who's a doctor. Like, they don't tie it in as well as like Naruto and One Piece, where it's like, oh, we have you know, like, oh, Sasuke's clan has a, like association with the founding, you know, Hidden Leaf Shinobi clan. You know, there's so much more like hardiness to the backstory in like Naruto and One Piece than there is in certain other shows.
Yeah, I think it's definitely hard to do that, just because you have to have like a lot of foresight.
Oh yeah,
and be able to understand like how to link certain like characters. And that probably takes a lot longer than to just do like a regular main story or main character type of series.
Yeah, I was talking with a coworker. We were talking about DC and Marvel, and it was like, yeah, I feel like he was saying that Marvel had better writing.
Okay.
In terms of like
recently or like just in general?
Writing, like the MCU.
Oh,
like,
the movies?
Like for sure, MCU kicks the DCU's ass.
In movies.
I agree. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's a good premise to make. I just think Marvel has more to write on, and they have more characters that tie into with each other. Like, if you look at Marvel, they have more groups created. They have like the Avengers, and then they have like a different kind of Avengers, and they have the X-Men, and they have like DC. You just have really the Justice League, and everything else is like kind of like separated from their own things.
Yeah.
I think the Flash and Green Lantern have a tie-in, and you know, it's very brief. They're just friends, right? They just happen to be friends and have superpowers.
And the Flash and I think Arrow have a tie-in.
Yeah, Arrow and the Flash, and like, you know, then like DCU also did like the Arrowverse with Flashverse with the Wonder Woman. Like, no, not Wonder Woman. Supergirl, some shit like that. But like in terms of comics, if you look at it as well, like it's kind of true in terms of like web spinning in storytelling, right? So like what I mean by that is like DC, you don't have like Batman and Superman having like a common factor of connection, right?
Yeah.
Like if you look into their backstory, it's just the Kansas City boy or like Kansas farm boy, you know, Clark Kent, Superman, and you have the wealthy billionaire, you know, Batman who, you know, studied martial arts all his life, supernatural stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like there's no like tying factor that brings them together outside of the Justice League.
Yeah.
Right? And like Marvel, you have Iron Man who's connected to Steve Rogers through Iron Man's father. Right? You have other connections with like
Iron Man and Spider-Man.
Yeah, exactly. Iron Man and Spider-Man. Now you have Captain America and Black Panther. Like you have all these little webs that are spun to like help reinforce and fortify this, like these pairings of people. Oh, Bucky and Captain America. Captain America and Black Panther are both leaders. Oh, this and that, you know.
There's like a lot more crossovers and
there's a lot more. Yeah, just like I said, it's just spun better in terms of like the chemistry of the characters is built on an actual background instead of them just being like, hey, we're all about this one movement. Let's be a team. It's like, no, I know you because. Oh, you grew up with my father, you fell into like some iceberg, and now you woke up in the, you know, in our current era of time. But wow, you knew my father, you know, that was my father. He was a genius, I'm a genius. Let's be the Avengers. You know what I mean? It wasn't just like, hey, I don't like Loki either. Like, let's kick his ass together. You know what I mean? There was something more than that. So, I mean, I love watching like the comics that are very like crazy in depth into like, oh, like let's go into about like multiverse talk and you know, 6-dimensional shit, and I don't know. It's just it's not even that. It's just like the bending of concepts, you know. Like,
I've tried like it's talking about stuff that like in reality we don't normally talk about, or like just abstract concepts.
Yeah. Well,
I think,
it's just interesting one that everyone always overlooked just because of how simplistic the concept of his character design is Flash. Right? He's a dude literally tied into the Speed Force. Yeah. So if you break that down into its own like word, like what is speed? You know, it's just distance over time. Yeah. So this dude's literally the conqueror of distance over time. Yeah. So anything that has to do with light, literally, anything that has to do with light, the speed of light. So traveling at 10 to the power 8 miles per hour. Right, that's like, I don't want to do the math because I feel like I'm gonna get it wrong. But I want to say million, but I feel like that's wrong. Anyways, like still, I think it is like 3 million. 3 million miles per hour, 3 billion, whatever it is. So anywhere past like 100 miles per hour is pretty fucking fast. So if you take that number and you multiply it by another 10,000, 100,000, even a million, that's how fast this person can conceive things and move and.
Like it's like Mach 8 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
It's beyond. It's the speed of light, right? So everything that we can see is because of light. Yeah. You know what I mean? So without the sun, without light, we would be able to see the mountain ranges in California or like the Grand Canyon Valley when you go over to Arizona. Mm-hmm. It's pretty crazy when you think about it that way.
And I think, like I don't know, I never watched too much of Superman, but I know like with Flash, they definitely tie into like the multiverse and then like the different Earths and like like that thing where it's like, oh, this is just, you have like a doppelganger on like a different Earth kind of thing. And like the alternate universe of like, oh, you didn't make this choice. This is what it would have been if you did or something.
Right. So I feel like that's where DC is cool in terms of like, they built around conceptual ideas in terms of like I said, like, oh, what if we went back in time? What would that rewrite?
Like how would it fuck up the current?
Exactly. And they'll go, like you said, doppelgangers, parallel universes. They'll go into that like realm of things. I feel like Marvel goes into more of like concepts within like the earthly realm. They don't try to really break the multiverse too much or like break into the multiverse too crazy much.
Yeah, because they're like, even during the Endgame series, they're like, oh, we can't do certain things so dude fuck up. Like, we don't want to find out what would happen. Right. Or like Doctor Strange always is like, oh, you can't do this. And they just kind of don't explore it.
Yeah, exactly. They kind of have that understanding of like, this is not going to be the greatest for the health of it.
Have you seen the new Spider-Man?
Yeah, No Way Home.
Yeah. So I mean, they kind of tie into that at the end, right? Where he like kind of fucks up trying to, be like, oh, only tell these people, but don't tell these people, and like changing, and it fucks up a lot of shit. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I mean, I like the way that Marvel's been going in this direction, at least in terms of like the MCU, with the direction they're going, in terms of like entering into those kind of concepts. Yeah. Right. I keep using that word so loosely, but like when I say concepts, I refer to like the hard thought, critical thinking, like Loki. If you've seen the Loki series, I haven't seen it completely all the way throughout, but like they deal with like multiple different versions of Loki throughout the multiverse. So they're starting to get into that, like, but they're starting to like piece and feed it to you instead of just doing like a huge.
Just pull the Band-Aid.
Yeah, instead of doing like this huge like mail dump on you, like here's everything, like sort this out yourself. It's more like, oh, everybody in this establishment is a Loki from a different universe. So these are all the different Lokis we can find. Can conceive that surrounds this one sphere of a multiverse.
Yeah, I wonder how they're going to continue to do it. Like, because I don't want them to just bring back people who vanished in the end game. Mm-hmm. Like, I want them to actually, like, okay, like, what happened here? Where did all those people go? Or, like, did they get transported to a different world or, like, universe or something? Yeah. So I think it would be cool. But I don't know how many people, because most people just want to see, like, the fight scene stuff. So
yeah, I used to be that guy, too. And that used to be like when I was probably most into like Dragon Ball. Yeah. Because that was it. I mean, Dragon Ball had nothing else.
It's just like two balls fight.
Yeah. It was really, they did it so simply, but it made it so intense. Yeah. Which is really incredible that you can just show a backdrop and just like little like sparks in the backdrop.
And you're like, oh shit, this is crazy.
Yeah. And like they're going off, they're fucking throwing hands. Like, yeah. What the fuck? Right? But then you go into like Naruto kind of fight scenes and it's like methodical and they go, oh, like they'll build into it.
Yeah, and there's like more chess in the fight scenes kind of type deal where it's like, oh, they place a kunai here for like later or some shit.
Yeah, it's very tactics based versus just like
brawl. Yeah.
Who's a screamer? Like who can scream the loudest and who can power up the highest. Yeah.
I think it'll be interesting to see how the MCU like continues to grow. I was talking with a friend yesterday. Like, I haven't seen the new Batman movie, but we were just talking about how DC needs to start like bringing in other villains than just the main ones. Because like you read comics, I haven't read like a bunch of comics, but I used to watch like some of the TV shows, and there's a bunch of villains for like both MCU and like DC. And I feel like they never bring in any of like the maybe smaller or like less known ones, and we just stick with like, oh, the Joker or like the Green Goblin or something.
Yeah, but I feel like that has to do with like marketing, right?
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to see it's like going to like a Warriors game, right? Peak Warriors back in like 2010, 2012, and they're playing like the Kings and on the worst season.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No one wants to go to that game except for the people who are diehard Warriors fans or wants to be part of that.
But I feel like at least if you brought in a villain that people don't know about and you made the trailer look cool, people would still be interested, right?
Yeah, almost definitely. But like again, like would you rather see Batman taking on the Joker, like a prime Joker, like DC, like a comics Joker, or would you rather him take on like some like like Black Cat?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you're just like they have this kind of love interest thing going on, but she's not that big of a
threat.
villain.
Yeah.
I think Black Cat's actually Spider-Man. But you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in that terms, like, I mean, I think a lot of people would rather see like the main villains and see like a new rendition. That's just how it goes, though. Like, do I agree with you in terms of like wanting to see like something a little out of the box? Of course, but like, is that what's going to bring in the money? Probably not. That's
why I was like, in the last Venom movie, I heard they brought in like Carnage, and I'm like, bro, since I was a little kid, I've been waiting for them to like put Carnage into a fucking movie.
Yeah, well, I mean, that becomes the issue too now, because of the MCU, we're starting to learn like people are starting to build a Marvel database in their head based just only on the MCU, based on the cinematic universe.
Yeah.
So like it becomes a topic of interest or disinterest maybe, because you'll have people talking about different aspects of Marvel, right? But some are talking about the comics and others are talking about the MCU, and there's a huge disparaging of that, right? Because the MCU has such a small, it's such a tight knit timeline, and even though they're going into like now they're starting to break it up a bit with like time traveling and like Endgame and now they're starting to break into like multiversal level of world building. But when it comes down to it, it's I lost my train of thought. Oops.
With like the comics versus the.
Oh yes, thank you. So yeah, like now it becomes a bigger issue because people now we deal with people who like, and this is no hate whatsoever, but like we get people who like think they know Marvel as much as they do, but they only really know the MCU.
But I also think like the comics have been around for so long that it's super developed, and these movies kind of take a while for them to release. Like I don't know how long they worked on Endgame and all that stuff, but I feel like they're kind of playing catch up to the comics because they're basing everything up. I mean, they're basing some of it off the comics, right?
I mean, if you look at like Infinity Wars versus like, the Infinity Gems like series in the comics versus the Infinity Wars in the movies, like the character of Thanos is portrayed so differently.
Really?
Yeah. Okay. So like in the comics, he's just a tyrant. There's no goodwill to his deed.
Okay, so he's just trying to rule the world.
Universe. He just like really like Thanos is made out to be this guy who's just trying to destroy everything for Mistress Death, which is the embodiment of death portrayed as an entity.
Yeah.
So like he's not trying to like, oh, I'm trying to kill half the universe so people could live longer and have prosperous lives. No, he's just killing people just for this
sake of killing people.
Exactly, just for death.
I wonder if that's just because like they know that a bunch of kids are watching these movies and they kind of have to like.
Well, yeah, they have to. I mean, they have a Disney backing on them.
Yeah,
Disney can't just be like, yeah, we created this villain that just likes killing things. They have to give him some form of like
morale.
Yeah, morality, where it's like, no, he's not just evil.
There's a purpose.
He's just misled. Like, no, that's not how it goes. You read it in the comics, he's just a dude that's trying to kill as much as he can out of the universe.
I definitely think the comics are like more blunt, or like there's no like beating around the bush kind of thing with them.
No, well, yeah, you have freedom of expression through writing, right? Without having to like worry about. Then again, don't get me wrong; these guys are trying to make a revenue on their comics, but movies are mainly based on revenue.
Yeah.
Comics have more expression, in my opinion. I mean, why do you think there's so many like more manga and like?
And there's a bunch of different authors and interpretations and
Yeah,
like spin-offs and all that stuff.
yeah. But even in it, just in like writing is more of a form of expression than cinema.
Yeah, because you're obviously like limited to what you can. Well, like there's like different factors. If someone's paying for you to do a movie, you have to like adhere to whatever they want to see.
Yeah,
And then obviously like physically you can only do a certain amount of stuff. Now it's getting better with like the visual effects, but still like in writing you can talk about some crazy shit and that you don't have to make realistic.
well, that's what I always liked about anime over live action was that you could just capture more with your imagination than you can with like live action.
Yeah.
Like even with like stop motion too. Like you can capture so much more in stop motion than you can in live action.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes. That's why I've always enjoyed. Like I just wanted to see how far people will take that envelope and push it. You know, like how far can people go in terms of creativity? We have magic-based worlds, fantasy-based worlds. And then, like, you try to replicate that in live action, and it's just not the same because it's hard to capture, like, a whole backdrop, like a whole setting.
I think that's also why, like, kids watch cartoons.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's just way more entertaining to see, like, this crazy shit than to see, like, realistic live action.
Well, everyone wants to move towards imagination, wouldn't you? Like, I don't want to... If I could think and, like, imagine as far as that rainbow will let me, then I will.
Yeah.
You know, why stop it short when you don't have to? You know, I mean, I think that's like the biggest killer. Is people like wouldn't say give up on their imagination, but they settle for like realism, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, I don't know, what makes people so like excitable and so fun is what they can imagine. I think that's why we enjoy our buddy Kendall so much, man. He's got a wild imagination, but. Like, I guess as wild as he is himself, like his imagination is just that much more wild and just makes him much more like interactable with because he'll just come out of the pocket with some weird shit.
And you'll be like,
Yeah, and it'll really provoke your thoughts.
Yeah, I think like I don't watch too many shows nowadays, but like when I do, I'd rather watch anime than watch like a fucking like show on Netflix. Because I'm like, one, I think anime has deeper plot lines and character development, and also two, you can just like they just do more things that aren't possible in live action.
I feel like, and again, these are always hot takes because I don't really watch that much live action anymore either.
Yeah.
I feel like how live actions are built to make you like fantasize about like shipping things, like people and
like romance and like
like
attraction.
Even in the most action movies, there's always some form of romance behind it. Inception has like a love story behind it. Even 300 has a mini love story behind it. You know, like the biggest action, Taken has a love story behind it.
Like I know
it's very faint, but it's still there.
Like animes definitely still have like that romance aspect, but it's not super centered around it.
No, and like and here's a good example. So like The Equalizer, right? If you remember that one, it was with Denzel Washington, like a secret. Like he's like a retired secret agent that can kill with like any means necessary. Like take this bottle cap and fucking jam it in your eye and you're dead. Right. But he doesn't do any of the shit that he does until like there's a provocation of, oh, this gangster is, you know, beating up this girl, the prostitute.
Yeah.
Kind of that's what forces the reaction of that character, right? There's like might not be love, but there's some form of like
protection or like
there, you know, and
or chivalry.
Yeah, exactly. Where it's like, you know, there's some form of like there's a plot within a plot kind of here.
Yeah.
And like in anime, it's like, yeah, there might be some form of love interest, but like the big centerpiece, like that's not what's pushing the plot.
Yeah.
The plot's getting pushed because like
the romance is just like sub stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. It's just like side bullshit.
Like if you look at like in Naruto, like why Itachi killed his clan, it's not because of love for anyone or anything like that. He just so it's not motivated by love at all.
Right, or like them taking on the Akatsuki, it wasn't motivated because they were trying to save some princess. Yeah. They were just trying to stop people who were doing something that was like literally
they felt wrong,
world like on a world scale, global scale of disaster, you know? You don't really get that with I mean, I guess like, don't get me wrong, like I said, there's some movies that do the same thing, like I think, was Olympus Has Fallen is like an example where like it was just literally like, oh, he's just saving the president. He's just doing his due diligence, right?
Yeah.
So there are movies live action like that, but I feel like there's more of a like you said, like more of a plot in anime than there is in live actions.
And I feel like they also like movies normally include romance because they're trying to hit like most demographics. They don't want to restrict themselves to like a smaller, like, because it's, again, they want to make revenue, right? Mm-hmm. So they want to have like as big of an audience base as possible. So they have to kind of cater to everyone's interests.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, if you're ever in a relationship, you'll realize like the differences in like in styles, what people like. Some people like comedies, some people like tragedies, some people like, you know, romance, some people like action. So like, where can I get, you know, like, you gotta imagine like a couple, right? So like, just imagine like a couple in your head outside of like Kendall and Kathy. And like, just imagine, oh, guys, it's probably gonna be centered around more comedy and more, you know, action shit, and women are gonna be centered around more like romance and
tragedy,
rom-com kind of stuff, and more plot driven, you know, less action driven. So how do we get the best of both worlds with that? I mean, they haven't found the answer, but like they try to, oh, this one's more woman centered with a little bit of a guy humor,
like The Notebook or something.
Yeah, what is it? Bridesmaids, I think was like. I think that was the one where everyone was just like, even guys were like, this movie is hilarious.
Yeah,
you know. The same thing, you'll get your Hangover, where that's definitely a more guy-centered movie,
but it's like, still funny for everyone.
Women will watch it and be like, "Fucking, that movie was classic," you know. Step Brothers is a classic for everybody.
Or Grown Ups, yeah.
Yeah, Grown Ups. That one's just a straight classic. That one was just like a good feel. That was a good hearty feel good movie right there, you know. Like a lot of the Adam Sandler Happy Gilmore movies, like. How many times have you seen someone take a Happy Gilmore swing?
Yeah.
On the golf course, or like you've seen it on some form of media, you know. So interesting, but it is what it is. What's that? Boil it down to. Yeah.
I think with animes too, there's so many of them that they don't have to really cater to everybody. They can find like. Because there's like so many like genres and subgenres. Because I watch like psychological thrillers, and that's like such a niche ass fucking genre, but that exists in like anime.
Yeah, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's so hard to, because you think it's hard to like find something you're like interested in terms of that. Because I'm the same way. Like for me, I'll jump around, but like I like the ones that make you think or that like use like high provoking concepts. So I do like Gurren. As funnily enough as it is, because it's such a simple show, but Gurren Lagann is so cool because the concept of them is so easy and simple.
Just keep digging. Just
keep going. Just spin, right? Like spiral energy. But it goes to this level of like, I am fighting this being that is as big as our universe right now. You know what I mean? Like they get to some to literal cosmic scales, so.
Or even like shows like Death Note, where you're like trying to put yourself in their position. Like, what would I do if I got this?
I love doing that. Yeah. That's why I like the live action wise. Inception was always a good one. You're just like, would I be able to keep track of what they're keeping track of right now?
Yeah.
Like beyond like becoming an architect and literally like sculpting out your own dreamland,
Even that one that's like the Truman Show. Like, what would you do in that situation?
Yeah. Like, how do you break out of that, and like, how do you? That one's always an interesting one because, he didn't figure it out until it was like
the end.
Until he was like 30, 20s, mid 20s. I'm gonna guess like mid to early 30s, right?
Yeah.
Mid 20s to early 30s.
Yeah.
So like if it takes you 24, 25, 26 to 30 years old to figure out that you're on TV, like crazy to think about that.
I mean, I feel like the first few years you're probably not as cognizant of shit going around you, but once you get into like your teenage years, you should start noticing stuff. But yeah,
it depends though, right? Because like
What if they just mastered it to like?
Exactly. I was gonna say, what if they catered it to exactly how you are?
Yeah.
You know, like what if it's like it is like an AI built system around you, right? So again, it's an intelligence, it's artificial, and it's literally right. The beauty of AI is that it's not like a program where it goes, okay, because I've seen this means I have to compute that. It goes, okay, this is the current situation as it's given. The best route of option is probably this.
Yeah.
As we continue to go forward in that direction, I will make micro changes accordingly. That would be more AI thought process.
Yeah,
you know
yeah.
what I mean?
Where it's like thinking for itself without needing like exact commands.
Right. Where it's, again, yeah, it's not binary where it's like 0 equals no and 1 equals yes.
Yeah.
Or, 0 equals off and 1 equals on. It's okay, we will work towards going off, and unless otherwise stated, we are working in the direction of off. It's almost like a limit. As you're approaching X, the number is going to slowly become 5, not until we get to that limit of 5. Same thing with, like, I think AI would be the way to go about that. It's like, okay, we're going to keep pushing this dude in the direction of, like, insanity until, he either snaps or he, breaks himself out, then we move towards sanity.
Yeah, because a machine is constantly learning based on new information.
Yes, exactly.
So it's not just relying on you to, like, input a value or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, the Truman Show, that was a trip to watch in class. I was like, what the fuck?
Well, it makes you really think, man. Because, like, it's like if people are, I mean, I don't know.
It's like it makes you question if everything around you is fake or not. Like you're just like, Like you start to like look back on shit that happened in your life and like question it.
Well, like what predicates like your importance to things, right?
Yeah.
And I always end up in these kind of conversations with myself because I just enjoy these deep talks. But it's like what do you, outside of, we're gonna be done with this podcast. You're gonna leave here and you're not gonna see me for another week.
Yeah.
Essentially, to you, I don't exist.
Yeah.
And vice versa, right?
Like out of sight, out of mind. Yeah.
And you're going to school, or so you say. And, I'm not keeping track of this shit on you. I mean, how do I know that's actually true? How do I know you're actually going to school? Besides, obviously other reasons that you and I both know.
Yeah.
We don't have to go over. But like, how do we know this is all real outside of like what I can currently see right now? Like, if I just went blind today, like if someone literally just stabbed me in my eyes, like what now?
Yeah. You don't know what's real.
Light doesn't even matter anymore.
Yeah.
Crazily enough, light doesn't matter. Right.
It's like if a tree falls down in the forest and you don't hear it, did it really fall down kind of deal? But
did it make a sound? Yeah, exactly.
Or it's just like when you miss a day of school growing up, like did that day even happen? Like did people even go to school type of deal?
Right. Yeah. It's crazy. It's really crazy, man. It's crazy thoughts, but valid. You know what I mean? It's like valid thoughts. I wouldn't say crazy in terms of like what the fuck, but it's just like it just makes you think about like, wow, what a world we live in.
Like how in like sports games you can, if you play like the career or whatever, you could sim some games. So sometimes when I was growing up, I'd be like, if I miss school, it'd just be like it's getting simmed or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's how it goes. You just like if you called out of school for a day, you just get the paperwork or like somehow it just delivers to your door, and you're just like, okay, I guess we're figuring this shit out.
Yeah.
It goes on without you, and it's just like, this was what you missed.
Yeah. You're like, okay, I guess.
How much of a work is it to just be like, here's the paper, do it. You know what I mean? Like, that's just pretty much what they did.
Yeah.
Page 54 in your textbook or in your workbook.
Yeah. Or people would be like, yeah, we didn't do anything.
Yeah. High school, that's what it was always about. Yeah, they just lectured. Or college. Yeah, it's just a lecture. You didn't miss much. Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there's not homework due every day.
That was me in college for a little bit. Me and my friends would have like this system down because we all took like Calc 2 or whatever. And like, unless there was like a quiz, and because we never had like pop quizzes, unless like there was a quiz, I wouldn't show up to class. Yeah. Because there was no attendance that was taken, and like
they're just gonna teach straight out the book.
Yeah, it was pretty much. So like, my buddy would tell me, because he would have a class before me, he'd be like, yeah, there was like we didn't go over anything. There was no quiz or nothing like that. Like, you know, I don't know if you have to go to class. I'm not going to class then.
Yeah, like save your time.
Yeah, I'll learn this shit on my own. I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So I did. Yeah. Yeah, we get to some crazy concepts with that. Like, if we didn't see, I mean, I like to always think about like the beginning. What constituted first? Was it sight, hearing, touch, or taste? You know?
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to think about it because tasting has to be very important, I would say, in terms of digestion. And then, I mean, I kind of went off topic without like introing to this topic, but like in terms of like how we're able to see what we're seeing, how we're able to hear what we're hearing, like how we got to where we got to.
Yeah, I mean, taste. Yeah, like you said, taste is important for like just maintaining your state of being.
Yeah.
But,
I feel like taste was probably one of the first ones, but like was like, as you can tell, it's like our least developed sense.
Yeah, and then I know like things like touch is kind of like touch and like hearing really helps you connect with the world in a sense. At least that's how I feel. And I think
everybody relies on sight.
Yeah.
Overly much. I think it's very complicated.
That's what they say. If you like just go to like a park or like somewhere, just like close your eyes, like you'll open up like your hearing or like even your smell a lot more when you're not using your like eyes.
Oh heck yeah, dude! People use their eyes. Like I said, I think a lot of people, me included. I wear glasses, and I'll wear glasses. I'll give them to someone else, and they'll be like, "Your eyes are not bad."
Yeah.
But then I'll take them off, and I literally can't see what the fuck time it is over there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But put them on, I can see them just fine. I'm very dependent on my eyes.
Yeah.
I think, like I said, I think a lot of people are, and that's not an issue. But it makes you wonder, like, if someone became blind, if I became blind, like, what next? You know?
Yeah.
What
I know,
matters
like,
at that point?
Yeah.
If I can't see anything, what matters?
I know in like sports and stuff, you can't always rely on your eyes because your like frame or like where your vision goes, it only extends so far, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you have to rely on like, that's why they say like talk when you're playing sports, so people can hear what's going on the other side without having to actually like turn their body or whatever.
Yeah.
So
not only that, but like, I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but like whenever we play basketball, and you have to kind of like glance your eyes and have this fish-eyed lens of 180 degrees.
Peripheral vision. Yeah,
you gotta watch the ball. You gotta watch like
you gotta watch the ball and your defender
and the guy you're guarding and any other options that are like potentially coming in.
And you gotta think ahead, like, oh, this might happen, so I should be here or whatever.
Do you get, like, for me, I always get disoriented sometimes when like there's always like a backdoor run right behind you.
Yeah, I'm like, oh fuck yeah.
Because like literally you're going from like this like
there's someone behind you. Yeah.
Look to like more focused look. So your eyes are trying to focus in on this one point that's moving already.
Yeah. So now you're missing all this other stuff.
As it's followed, your brain's still trying to keep track of everything, but your body hasn't moved with it. You know, that's where I always get caught. I think that's where a lot of people get caught.
Yeah, because you're focused so much on one thing and there's something else is happening and you can't react fast enough.
Yeah, or you're trying to split your focus so much and trying to...
that you just don't move.
And then you're trying to hone it in, yeah. That it's like... your mind's like, I should have been there, and that's like what
I wanted to be,
to do, but it didn't. You know, it's always interesting in my opinion. No, like that, like from with that, I could never. I don't know. That one's always like my hardest part because I think that's what I was taught in basketball, like earlier. I would say like in like middle school was like becoming like of a better basketball player. It was like, oh, like you got to be aggressive, like take those chances to get those steals. And it was hard though, because like just trying to like
time it,
trying to just keep my eyes split.
Yeah.
And then matching that timing of the pass.
Yeah.
Like crazy ridiculous. Yeah, and people are doing that like it's like
nothing. Yeah.
Like that's like the whole basketball IQ shit, you know?
Yeah.
It's like,
or like your sports IQ or
It's like it becomes that thing where you ask someone, you're like, oh, how'd you do that? And they're like, I don't know, I just
natural.
Just did it. Yeah. Like,
okay, bro.
I just did it. You're like, oh, cool.
Yeah.
Just watch me and you'll figure it out.
Yeah, like, nah, that's not how that works.
That's not how that works. I fucking love when people tell me that. Or like when you're trying to get into like something new, it's always watch the pros, watch how they do it, and you're like, no.
Yeah.
Like honestly, that's the worst advice in my opinion. You
got to break it down like all the way.
Get your foundations and fundamentals down first.
Yeah, break it all the way down, simplify it.
Mm-hmm.
But like it still helps looking at other people just to see like what you should be doing, but you got to break it down, or else you're not gonna be able to translate it.
Yeah, I mean that's how it goes with everything. I mean. I don't know. I talk to. I'll go to my bar on my days off, or like right before I go, and I hang out with my daytime bartender at the time, and we'll talk about anything under the sky.
Yeah.
From like the Warriors to like the Giants baseball, all the way up to like just like deep mathematical concepts, or like just long strenuous figures, right? And we'll just have like huge conversations on those. It's always so weirdly nice. I don't know. He's a history major, so like we'll talk about history buffs and just like we just bounce things off.
Yeah.
And neither one of us could be right on anything.
Yeah, you just like bouncing ideas.
But just the fact that like things get bounced off is just so nice, because it's like you start to build. And that's how I always get to like such crazy, stupid, weird concepts that no one ever talks about. Is because I just bounce those ideas off of people and see what comes up.
Just see like their perspective, and then like add that to your perspective, and
well, it's just like what do people think about this topic?
Yeah,
I know this topic pretty well in terms of like my understanding of it. How do other people understand this topic? Like, hey, when I bring up fourth dimension, what comes to mind?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. For me, it's only thing I can think about is time. And you can take a slice of that. So that must be some form of dimension. But at the same time, we still don't have an understanding of time. Completely. It's always interesting to think about.
There's definitely like so many questions. Like, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, how like kids have like a lot more imagination. And like, I think as kids, you ask way more questions that people just tend not to think about as they get older.
Yeah.
But I feel like you have to keep thinking about those things. That's how you push things forward. Yeah.
Well, that's the problem that I think people face. I don't know. Maybe this is very subjective because I dealt with it a lot, but I asked a lot of fucking questions. Like,
same.
My baseball coach would give us like titles. Like, oh, here's a little piece of paper with the title on it. Like, you are great, like most improved. Mine was like questions. That was it. I was like, you just asked too many questions. It was literally what my coach told me. He's like, you just asked so many questions. I think he was annoyed with me. By how he was presenting the title to me. He was like, you're Mr. Questions because you asked so many fucking questions. Like, that's the kind of vibe I got from him. But he did this in like a ceremonial thing to the parents. We were like 8 years old. So he did it with like a better attitude, but like deep down, I feel like this guy was just like, you just fucking asked so many questions.
But I feel like it's better to ask questions than to not.
Yeah, well, I think the problem becomes like people asking questions, and when someone does not have the answer, like they give up. The person who's asking the question,
you just gotta find a different person to ask, or you gotta do your own research.
You just gotta keep going down that rabbit hole if you want to, right? It's a matter of like knowing when to back out or when to keep going in if you want.
Yeah.
For me, I just don't know when to back out. If you give me a hole, I'm diving in. I'm the one that's digging as far as I can with it.
Yeah, I feel like rabbit holes are super tough to avoid, especially now if you're just like trying to learn stuff on YouTube. You'll just get like recommended all this shit, so you just keep going down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. But then you'll learn that at the end of the rabbit hole, there's like this huge network of tunnels that are being dug. You know what I mean? Like that's how everything in my head is always connected in terms of like, like electricity and light. And if we keep backing that up, we get down to the fundamentals of the universe.
Yeah.
Like physics and, what we constitute our science on. So with that being said, it becomes a thing of like having to, back out when you need to in those rabbit holes and dig down deep when you. I think, like I said, people ask questions and then get deterred when there's no one to provide an answer for.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to make your own answers or like try to find reasoning for certain things.
Exactly. It just means that whether you've reached that pinnacle of what you're asking and no one has quite figured it out yet, or you're just asking a question like
in a different,
that no one has
manner.
ever like contemplated.
Yeah.
You know, whereas like, oh, I never even thought about, that questioning of or that phrasing of it. So, I'm not sure. That's when you know that you've reached some place that's, in my opinion, a really good place to reach, because now you're reaching concepts that no one else has really touched up on much, or it's not circulated enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think when you're like beginning, or like a beginner at something, or like starting out, you definitely ask a lot more questions that people aren't used to. Because most people probably just learned something and they just kind of like accepted things as they were.
Yeah.
But when you're coming into it after it's been established for a while, you probably ask questions that they've never like thought about. Like if you ask an athlete like why they do a specific movement, some of them might not have an answer.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But like, yeah, and those athletes deep down know, or like, funnily enough, are the most efficient.
Yeah.
In that movement, but they don't know why.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to think about that. Like they just have the muscle memory repeated down so much,
but they don't remember why they needed it.
Yeah. But they don't understand like why this mechanical system is its most efficient and its most useful. They just understand that this motion is like the healthiest for my body.
Yeah.
Like their translation of it is like at a different pedigree than like a kinesiologist. It's like, oh, because you're engaging your lats more and you're disengaging your deltoids because your deltoids are a smaller muscle group and your latissimus dorsis are a bigger muscle group.
Yeah.
Instead of like an athlete like chewing on that and I was gonna say a lot of athletes actually go into kinesiology
or like
so
sports science. Yeah.
So it is when when I shuffle laterally, this is why I'm moving faster. It's because I'm engaging my hips more, or it's because I'm squeezing my muscles instead of keeping them engaged the whole time. I'm engaging them specifically at certain moments, so it's just a lot of explosive bursts.
Yeah.
Instead of just like this onset of a held muscle.
Yeah, definitely. Like you got to break things down and then like build them back up in a sense.
Yeah. I mean, you never have to understand why you're great at what you're great at, but having a better understanding of it helps you to teach it to other people.
Yeah. Also, it's also good to like just question like why am I great at this, or like gets you into those abstract thinking and breaks you out of like just the mundaneness of like everyday life.
Yeah, and it holds you strong to like what is making you stand out. Yeah.
It just helps you get to know yourself better.
You know your strengths, weaknesses, exactly what to work on, what not to work on, or what you don't have to work on as much.
Yeah.
I don't know. The outlook on this world is kind of, it was crazier. I would say it's crazier back then. You know what I mean? Like when we started this podcast, it was during like such a crazy time.
Yeah.
And it started to dilute a little more.
Getting back to like kind of normal.
But not really.
Yeah.
It's just a different form of crazy now. Like we dealt with like pandemonium kind of crazy. Now we're just dealing with like fucking shoot me already kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think like
we're kind of, I think the atmosphere is like we're over this shit.
We just got like super desensitized.
Yeah, most definitely.
Like nothing shocks anyone anymore.
No. Which is, I mean, I don't know, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? I think it has its goods in terms of like now if like some crazy shit hits us, we're not going to be turned sideways completely anymore.
Yeah, we're not going to be at ground zero. We'll be like, okay, we definitely like fell off a little bit, but we can get back to where we have to faster.
Doesn't that show you how crazy like the wave of humanity works?
Yeah.
Right? One person starts this fire and and everyone just lets it keep burning. I don't know. It's one of those things. There's one like at a certain point, when do we make a stand? You know what I mean, though? Like,
yeah.
When do we start to question like the validity of things?
Or like, why are we doing these things? They're just like detrimental to everything.
Yeah. Like I don't know. It becomes such a, and maybe we'll end it on this note, which is like not the best thing to end it on. Maybe we'll try and pick it up from there. But like, how do we better our world? Or like, how do we move in that direction? We were able to move in the direction of pandemonium and ride with that, We've had a lot of people ride out that pandemonium.
Yeah.
And it becomes a thing of how do we salvage what we have and how do we move in the direction of like less pandemonium, more stability, and more like bring it back to what we once were.
I think people just have to have more empathy and compassion, and that's like a good place to start. And hopefully, with more people developing those two things, it'll just overall benefit everyone.
Yeah, I think I believe in that, but to develop like a strong plate or strong palette of empathy, compassion, you do need to be. I feel like
you have to be able to like put yourself in other people's situations and truly understand.
I was gonna say it's like really just, and it's not in like it's education in its like most simplest form.
Yeah.
Right. So understanding situations and like what makes them what constitutes them and how to best react without having an adverse reaction.
Yeah.
You know, I guess that wasn't as morbid as I thought it was going to be, but I mean, it really does come down to just like not listening to what other people say until you do your own research on things. You know?
Yeah, or like listen to what other people say, but don't take it like as law.
As fact, yeah. Even on like the highest pedigree and highest levels, like we need to take a step back and chill for a minute.
Yeah, you gotta like listen to what someone says, take some time with it, see how you feel, do some research.
Yeah. I mean, what makes someone, an expert in their field? It's the research they do, so you can also do the same kind of research.
Yeah.
You don't have to be an expert, but like
it'll help you like expand your knowledge. To get a better
understanding of their opinion, like you need to understand what they're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, on that note, we kind of talked about a mosh posh of things today. And, just kind of just getting the vibe for like what we got going on for us in the next, months
in the future, yeah.
So we'll find some more topics to talk about. I mean, climate right now has been, in terms of like, just in general, like the general geopolitical.
It's been crazy.
Yeah, I mean, the climate's been nice in terms of literal weather, but
in terms
what's
of
going on outside of that in the atmosphere of like geopolitical, it's starting to get weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, on that note, I think we're moving in the right direction with things. I mean, at least from where we once were.
Yeah, it's definitely starting to pick back up, but hopefully we do it in the right manner.
Yeah, it's becoming things of more within our control.
Yeah.
That we believe we can control.
Or at least people are accepting that there's a lot more we can control.
Yes. So, on that note, let's everyone be good human beings, like always. And, if you're tuning in, thank you again for listening. And, we'll see you guys next week, and we'll hear from you guys soon, and you'll hear from us even sooner. So, on the note, it's your boy Maui.
And it's Bambi.
And this is Couch Surfin.
Peace.